Let's get started. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reverse it. Normally, I want to save the nugget, like the thing that I want you to leave with. I'm going to save it for the end. Today, I'm going to start with it. You guys need a little punch to the gut. Julian?
Ouch.
2025. What is coming down the pike for gaming?
Okay. Yeah. So first off, Yolo is an early stage investor, right? So we look at early stage businesses that have made the first dollar, post-product, slight post-revenue, but not necessarily any other VCs have found them. What we've seen in the last few years is we think the gaming model is broken.
No. You said it even more bluntly to me in the speaker's lounge. Go ahead, lay it out there.
We think gaming is dead. We think there's a massive disconnect. Now, every generation is going to say, this generation has broken things. It's definitely going to be different marketing. We're actually seeing this now in the gambling industry. We think there's a massive disconnect between how we gamble today and what the Gen Zs are going to be gambling in 2025.
What you're really saying is the gamblers are dying.
Even the way they gamble, even why they gamble, even the fix, the rush they get. So what we need to find is what the next fix is going to be, where it's going to be, and how can we help it scale to displace the revenue disproportion that's actually going to be happening in the next few years.
It wouldn't surprise you to know that for years we've known the people who sit down at slot machines are aging. The people who are driving the bulk of the gaming revenue in bricks and mortar casinos are senior citizens. And the goal has been for the casinos to get younger and younger players interested in sitting on their casino floors. Is the same thing true in sports gambling and iGaming?
If you look at how the next generation of gamblers will get their fix, it won't be on the casino floors, it won't even be in the mobile gambling sites. It will be off the apps, the connected community apps, that probably have little to do with gambling and more to do with stats, more to do with the social sharing-based aspect, and the little sprinkling of a gambling element on top.
Are they already doing it on TikTok or Telegraph or other apps that they're using, WhatsApp?
So one of the interesting things we discovered over the last 2 years is that the social network Telegram has been amassing almost 900 million active connected users with very little gating criteria. So if you overlay some sort of gambling opportunity over there, you've immediately got a connected audience. And there's no barriers to entry, there's no SEO problems, there's not even an affiliation. All they need to do is have a community of people who they're already talking to, and effectively they go. And we found this out with a small Australian startup a year ago called Dabble. Dabble was mainly about sharing bet slips, which is something really taboo when you consider Gen X and even millennials don't like sharing their bet slips because they think they've got the unfair advantage. But actually, Gen Zs love to have the bragging rights to talk about it and share it with everyone else. This is what I found. These are the odds. Is he going to retire? So all of the amount of in-play markets become a massive opportunity to talk about first, even before you talk about gambling.
Joey, Betr is not only aiming for young bettors, but also trying to balance that with the responsible gambling part of it as well. What do you make of Julian's prediction that gambling is dead, and how do you try to revive it? What's the defibrillator that you can use?
Yeah, that's obviously a very provocative statement, but I think real money gaming will just be quite different, particularly for this next generation of sports fans that Betr is really catering to. And as you alluded to, from a distribution perspective, we're really approaching things differently. And we're talking about predictions, and one of my predictions for the future here is that the way real money gaming operators pursue distribution is going to need to be fundamentally different than the way it is today. So this blunt force marketing of saying, download FanDuel, download DraftKings, get a deposit bonus, get a risk-free entry. We're a brand that's sort of just associated with sports betting, I don't think is going to be enough. I think operators will need to think a little bit more creatively with respect to creating original content that doesn't just drive brand awareness, but drives genuine brand affinity so that the consumers have real brand loyalty with these brands. And there's a community around it too. And at Betr, we're, I think I said this at this conference last year, we're going to fail if we're like the Jake Paul sports gaming business. Our vision is to incubate the next 100 Jake Pauls within Betr Media, and they sort of develop their own distinct personalities. And you look at Derek, you look at JoJo, we have these characters that we're developing, and there's a real community that we've built at Betr. And despite being a 2-year-old startup, we're already the largest on TikTok of all the D2C sports gaming brands. The only company that we're behind on TikTok is BR Betting, which we're on track to pass soon.
Based on what? On the number of followers?
Number of followers, engagement, all of that. So yeah, I think original content that builds a real connection with the community is going to be of paramount importance to not just having sustainable customer acquisition economics, but unfair customer acquisition economics, which is what we're interested in accomplishing and we're seeing so far with our business. And then I guess just to piggyback on the responsible gaming piece, it's of critical importance that we roll this out the right way, because while you're maybe sacrificing some short-term profits, you're prolonging your ability to generate lifetime value by enabling consumers to really pursue sports gaming in a manner that it's truly an entertainment experience, not a predatory one. So Betr remains the first, or we're the first, and we're still the only regulated sports gaming operator in the United States that has voluntarily banned credit cards as a depositing method. We also restrict the amount that young consumers 21 to 25 years old can deposit on a monthly basis. And in fact, a third of our entire user base of hundreds of thousands of people now have deposit limits, which really highlights how important this is to get right. So, we're very passionate about responsible gaming because fundamentally sports gaming needs to be about entertainment value, not short-term sort of predatory value extraction. And I think this industry needs to do a much better job of actually doing something about responsible gaming rather than just talking about responsible gaming.
Do you think that fantasy sports, which a lot of kids join when they are still kids, is preparing kids, is teaching kids how to gamble? And furthermore, I've had a lot of conversations in the last few weeks with teenagers who tell me everybody's betting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we only permit 21 plus with our fantasy.
Yeah, that's great, unless they take their parents' login information or their older brothers or whatever, and they're using.
They don't need to. If they use Telegram, they can go straight to a casino. They can go straight to some sort of DFS site that can pivot. They can use an app, which effectively is just about stats that can then connect, right? So I get Joey's concern, right? You need to have a KYC level, right?
Yeah, there's robust KYC processes in place,
but the access for 14 plus these days is much bigger than that. The addressable market and the touch points is all around community-based apps. So if you see apps coming out of the App Store, I met these guys at the Knicks yesterday, Sharpest, fantastic duo. What they provide, right, is not gambling per se. They provide insight, right? I akin them to the eToro, right, for initial-based gambling. You're not a Forex trader, but your access to getting there is through an app through the App Store when you're just browsing. There's no necessarily any age restrictions, but it allows a massive community, not necessarily on gambling, but the insight, the information, the access to getting there is key. And I think there's a massive iceberg underneath the regulated space, which is happening, and that's going to be propelling our next generation of gamblers.
Which is why it's better for all of this to happen in the regulated environment.
And in fact, and I don't want to, we had a whole day of responsible gambling yesterday. I don't want to veer off onto that, but Amy Howe told me, the CEO of FanDuel, that it's one thing for FanDuel to lay down the gauntlet, for Betr to lay down the gauntlet, for BetMGM to say, this is our standard and we're not going to break it. But all it takes is for one competitor to ruin it for everybody and to have the regulators crack down in a way that becomes impossible to make a profit and to run a business a la what we've seen or the trajectory that we've seen in Europe. Adam.
we are totally off track. Right? This is about 2025, not 2030. We are seeing records broken every day in our sector. BetMGM is breaking records for engagement levels, daily active play, number of actors, first-time depositors, right? There is no macro issue with the growth of the industry or the TAM today. 10 years' time, next generation, you're absolutely right. The winds are blowing. Mm-hmm. The tide is turning slowly, right? We are talking, so all over the place. No problem with TAM. The words we are using, even on this panel, are the wrong ones. Predatory, fix. This is not what this is about. What this is about is giving people something that elevates their emotional engagement with an event, right? Makes them feel something. That's what entertainment is about. The fact that we're getting lost in channels and this and it, that's not what this is about. Break it down into its very essence. I wager on something. Why? Because I have an opinion, because I think I'm going to be right. That's it. And it makes me feel good. That's why I do it. And that is not going to change. That is not going to change. You're absolutely right. Stamp out the black market. Regulate it is the only way. It's the only way to protect the vulnerable. It's the only way to protect the young. It's the only way to protect those who have addiction problems, and there are.
As long as it's fair regulation.
100%. Fair, transparent, accessible.
Yeah.
Right? Totally right. One of the things we are doing to connect with the observation I just made is this thing called angstrom. And angstrom. What is angstrom? It's a sports pricing business that Entain, one of our shareholders, acquired last year. Why is it special? Why are we excited about it for BetMGM in 2024, building into 2025, which is what this is about? The way they build their models is from a player level up, and I'll come back to the kids betting in a second. Player level up, which means who's on the court, who's on the pitch, how are they playing together, how is the team performing, which means every possible permutation of event in the game can be priced. We can offer that to our users who might have an opinion on that thing.
Who will have an opinion, for sure. And that's your market.
Not everybody has an opinion about the same things, which is why breadth is relevant, which is why combinability is relevant, which is why availability is relevant, which is why angstrom is relevant for BetMGM.
Yeah. So angstrom we took a look at angstrom, we love it. Why? Because effectively it is a gating platform that creates a community around it. I have an opinion, I'm going to express my opinion, the community is going to vote me up or vote me down, but importantly I get a response. That's what's happening in the next generation of gambling. It's happening already. Even if it's not gambling per se as we know it, it's definitely a gambling element. And we're seeing this in basketball forever. We just took a stake in them. I know you guys have invested in it as well. We think it's a fantastic business. There's stats, there's a community, there's betting, but importantly, there is buzz. And the virality we're seeing in the Gen Zs is significantly different to what we've seen in millennials and especially Gen Xs.
Okay, Ed, you've been listening intently. How do you turn what you've heard so far into predictions for 2025?
I've been very patient, I think.
Yes.
Well done.
I think some astounding points have been made. I think the most important thing for this audience to understand is that the size of the industry today is a microcosm of what we expect it to be. Mm-hmm. People tout GGR, $10 billion, but let's take off promotion. So it's a $7 billion industry, which is the only amount of revenue so far we've been able to garner from about 55% of the population. As we forecast out 24, 25, 26, gaming is dead is right insofar as what it is today will be so dramatically different, but it's going to be so dramatically different in such a positive way, bringing a broader audience in where you're getting a larger share of, and I'm going to repeat the word that Adam said because we use it every single day in terms of defining this industry. It's an entertainment industry. It's not a gambling industry. We need to think of it more broadly about who can participate in it. We have, in essence, 50% of the country, female gender, who don't participate in sports wagering because for many people it's just not interesting as a proposition as afforded to them on the websites today. But they love casino gaming. Just look at the size of the social casino space, which is larger than the NGR of today's sports betting. Look at Gen Z in terms of how they communicate socially in a community and the types of game that they play, which are not casino games. They're highly engaging games on a casual or other format. Start bringing those in. And when we look at 2025, it's not a question of whether casino gaming goes from $8 to $10 billion or NGR of sports goes from 7 to 11. It's start thinking about a size of this industry that is a multiple of this, and how can companies engage in that? So that when we look at 25 or 26, because let's give them one more year, because 25 is not so far away. We think you're going to have convergence of all these entertainment, media, and consumer internet companies together to have a holistic offering, and that's the nirvana for this product.
In the modeling, how important is California legalizing, Texas legalizing, the rest of Canada legalizing when you're looking at it?
Come the end of the day, it's an inevitability for a state such as California, because what we've seen on an historical basis but you've got to take into account the horsemen, the tribes, the card clubs, and make sure that we get it all right. But the tax dollars are too big. It's already conducted within the state. Let's not pretend California does not have gaming. It's got about $7 to $10 billion worth of gaming across tribal casinos. Texas, more difficult. We all know what some of the statements are being made for, but they have resisted it for 20 years successfully. So I think the question is it regulated gaming or some of these adjacencies, sweepstakes, daily fantasy sports, skill gaming, pool gaming, iLottery? Let's please lump all this under the umbrella of what is gaming, not get myopically focused on sports wagering and iGaming as traditionally defined, because as we look at it, that's the industry, so it's already taking part. And what is very important is we have the right, go back to Joey's comment, regulatory channels and consumer protection measures, but it's actually already here. It's already taking part and consumers love it.
Adam, when do you think we might see that tide shift in those other super states, California and Texas? And is the Adelson buy-in of the Mavericks going to make a difference?
So the team owners in Texas are very influential, and so the answer to that is yes. I think, to tell you, California is not in our near-term model. Texas is. California has unfortunately snatched defeat from the jaws of victory too many times before. Sharing is hard in California. There are too many incumbent, very strong, influential groupings. And look, ultimately, the unlock for California, as everybody probably knows, are the tribes. And so the passage to sports wagering in California is a deal which includes the tribes as partners.
We've seen the SEC approve crypto as ETFs. Bitcoin has hit a new record. Joey, what's your prediction for broadly adopting crypto as part of the gaming space?
Yeah, certainly not going to proclaim myself to be an expert in crypto, but our demographic is very interested in speculating on different cryptocurrencies and exploring their different use cases. So we're going to look into it. I mean, there's so much on our product roadmap that we consider to be table stakes for our customers that I'm not going to pretend like it's sort of a pressing near-term priority right now, but it's something that we'll look into sort of accommodating as a currency option over time. And maybe there's some different game mechanics that we could develop that can enable our customer base that's interested in speculating on cryptocurrency to do so with Betr, but nothing committed to it this time.
So one of the reasons why we think crypto is important, we're invested in a few crypto-based investments, crypto-based casinos as well. And we see the rise in crypto price as a necessary call to action for proper regulation, for proper KYC, for proper onboarding. Back to the Telegram analogy. We're invested in this casino called Whale. We incubated it ourselves. You go to @Whale, you're on a casino itself, right? It's only powered through crypto, right? And importantly, it's only powered through Telegram's crypto, which is TON. And TON just jumped from $1 to $3 in the space of weeks just because there's an ecosystem behind it. Why is this important? We hope that with ETFs, we hope with the SEC gradually allowing proper regulated-based crypto, this will become a default payment currency for the majority, particularly in the US, but also in developing nations as well. Challenges actually isn't the crypto itself, it's the banks. The banks are the biggest challenge. So we invest in OTC, in on-ramps and off-ramps to ensure that banks, because they are the biggest friction in gaming today, hopefully will be able to give us a much easier, less frictional path down the crypto space.
Adam?
Unfortunately, today there is no consumer e-commerce which is crypto-based. And so the discussion around crypto as an acceptable currency for what is already a sensitive industry, highly regulated industry, it's a challenging path because the sentiment, at least, is that those who would be attracted to use crypto as a currency are not the players we want in a regulated market.
One more. What about AI? Like, what role is AI playing in your plans for 2025?
AI has been playing a role in how we optimize our marketing, how we segment our players, fraud, personalization, our risk model, all learning models.
It couldn't be more important, I think, at a time where there's such a focus on profitability, when promos are still sky high, whereas we look at the prospect for tax rises, they're only going up. We know what's happened in Ohio, we know what might happen in Illinois. If there can be a better way to communicate with your players on a tailored basis that is more pertinent to them, that will cause them to have more enjoyment with the product, spend more, be more engaged, spend more time on the app on a cost-effective way via AI, because I don't think people are seeking necessarily human intervention, human involvement. They want is something that's personalized to them, then it's nothing but a positive for the industry.
I think that's a really important point. So one of the emerging trends again that we're seeing, and this is a 25 thing, not a 2030 thing, is the need for a gaming generation to remain on an app, as opposed to leave the app, go to Google, find some odds, and then go to a website based on an affiliate's recommendations. Content-based and community-based betting off the same app is going to be key for the ecosystem. We're seeing this on Telegram. We're seeing this on early stage businesses that start out just by building a community and then providing light touch gaming on top. I think AI will help. I specifically think AI will help drive the gamification of that to allow users and the user experience to remain within the app, as
100%.
opposed to resort to Google or any other search engine or even a BART to try and get them back.
M&A. Joey, are you open to being acquired?
Straight to it, Contessa.
Yeah, so we're building Betr for the long haul. We're focused on not just quickly growing, but profitably growing. And we have a very clear path to profitability with this business. We have seen pretty phenomenal unit economics since really hard launching our gaming business with the launch of Betr Picks ahead of this past NFL season. So we're building this business to be self-sustaining, to control its own destiny, to get to 9 figures and beyond of revenue in pretty short order. But Jake and I are, commercial and representing shareholders. So if there's opportunities along the way, we'll consider them. But our sort of North Star is that $10 billion plus IPO outcome.
Last one. I have 20 seconds left. We're in the middle of election season, Super Tuesday yesterday. It by all measures, it looks like we're heading for a rematch of 2020. How important is the election, Adam, for the way you do business in 2025?
Fairly neutral for us.
Joey?
Same.
Really avoiding controversy.
I think a regime change is really going to force change in behavior, particularly with regards to licensing in states, but particularly also with regards to crypto. I genuinely think that, a regime change is going to have to force us think about this.
But let's not forget it's a states' rights
state by state.
issue, not at the federal level. And that's really important as we think about the impact of the federal election.
That wraps up our time here, but I think we got out of a lot for 2025. Yeah, gaming will be alive in 2025.
Will be alive, yes.
Okay.
Be an exciting year, that's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.